So, is the set worth it? We turn it upside down, we drop it, it's not in a million pieces. Answered. Now let's go on to some actual coverage. Hello and welcome to the Bearfoot Miniatures coverage of the new Mechanicum battle group. Today I thought we'd be going over, is the actual box worth it, and how you could use that box to get into Mechanicum, either as an allied detachment, maybe even starting there, and then growing into a bigger army. And I'll be going over the units that are included. And I'm going to be going over the Magos because that's the most typical HQ choice that you can include with this set to utilize it all. Obviously, there's some marine options and solar options to use Castellax and Thallax. Other than that, but we'll be focusing on the Mechanicum today. So if you do like watching this video, don't forget to do all the YouTubey stuff. It lets me know that you want to see more content like this. You want to see more Heresy content of like maybe even how to get into various armies in Heresy would be good. If you really like it, there is a Patreon link below where you can get early access videos. At the moment, there's the Necromunda Secundus campaign. There's podcast versions of these talking videos. Now, one bit of bookkeeping is that I did get sent this set by Games Workshop, so a massive thanks to them for sending me that. However, I will be giving my actual opinion on the set, not just being overwhelmingly positive, even when there's problems. There will be one, at least, as we're going through, that there is a problem. So stick around to find out what that is. So, weirdly, I'm going to start off with a model that's not within the set, and that's going to be the Archmagos Prime, either on abeyance or not on abeyance. And the reason for this is the orders of the high techno arcana rule, and that shapes your army to a great degree, I would say. Now, we'll come back to the actual unit of the Archmagos Prime, but let's get on with the orders of the high techno arcana. As I say, it shapes your army quite a lot. It's like the Rights of War in a Marine list that can dramatically alter the composition of your list or just how you think about units. The one that I'm going to be recommending to take based on this set or just as an entry point for Mechanicum is the Cybernetica Order of the High Techno Arcana. Now, the reason I'm going to be doing that is it helps out with your Castellax, which are a bit of a mainstay unit for Mechanicum. It helps those by making them become line. They're already troops. All three sort of like walkie units in the battle group box are troops, but this makes the Castellax line. It helps out by reducing your opponent's cover save. And it's actually a really convoluted rule that I constantly forget about that isn't why you're really taking this. It's because Castellax contain line. You also get, finally, Preservation Protocols. A model with this special rule gains Patris Cybernetica, so that means you can join Castellax units. Normally, your Magos wouldn't be able to join Castellax or any other automata like Domitar, Vorax, Thanatars. With this special rule, the Patris Cybernetica, taken by doing the Cybernetica Order of the High Techno Arcana, you can join automata. In addition, no wounds can be allocated to your Magos while they're in a unit of automata. So like Deathwing Companions, they can't be sniped out, or the character can't be sniped out while in that automata unit. And that's a really actual powerful rule for keeping your Magos alive. Now, my second recommendation for your Cyberthurgy power, which is essentially like a psychic power that I'm going to say all Magos gets, but Magos Dominus and Archmagos Primes get options within these. But pretty much any time you want to take automata, I'm going to recommend you to be taking the Cybernetica Cyberthurgy. Lots of big words in this, jumbled up. And that's because essentially it gives you the ability to react if you utilize this Cyberthurgic power. Now, you could no longer use Cyberthurgy on a reaction like psychic powers in the last FAQ. It was changed so that you can only do it in your own turn. So no more chaining more and more cyber thurgies down the table. But what it does is allow you to, if you go first, react all game essentially, or if you go second, you just miss one turn. And it's such a big difference, especially if you get a big Castellax blob, or even when looking at it in this set, just your small number of Castellax that you get. It's such a force multiplier. It essentially doubles the output of the unit because they can fire in both turns. So it's really worthwhile doing. If you just take any automata, you need a Cyberthurgic, a Cybernetica using model. Now, you can use one or two of these bullet points essentially that you get within it that allows you to roll an additional dice when charging, discarding the lowest. Ignore the first wound in each shooting attack. You just discard the dice after the wound. Add +1 BS for that shooting phase, or react. Now, there's a lot of back and forth that I've had with Mechanicum players. Some like to go for 2, some like to go for 1. Depends what sort of state the game's in. But there's some really useful ones in there, like ignoring the first wound means that your opponent has to be aware all the time, do they shoot what first? And it actually mitigates so much incoming damage because things that are likely to hurt your automata are usually good AP as well, like melters, even plasmas, things like that. So you just ignore the hits off them, whichever are allocated first, the first one. I tend to go for 2, but obviously it's just down to how you feel as a player. Do you back yourself to pass that high leadership test? Now, coming down to the actual Archmagos, I prefer the Magos Prime on their own. Even if I'm taking Cybernetica, High Techno Arcana, and so I could join Automata, I like utilizing my Archmagos with a jump pack, which can only be used if I'm not on a Bayon. And the reason for that is I can join my Thallax squad, have a 2-up, 3-up with a Cyber Familiar, which I definitely take, always take it. It's a 3-up invuln. And they can mitigate so much damage in the Thallax. It makes them such a force multiplier for that squad, because usually your Thallax die to heavy bolters just constantly. There's so much incidental AP4 in the game. The Archmagos allows you to mitigate a lot of that. Now, weapons, I really like the Grav Gun because it allows you to slow down your opponent. And when we get into having the jetpack, which I'll go over in the Thallax section, and I definitely recommend it here, take a jetpack, otherwise go on a Bayont. But having a Grav Gun, just such a multiplier because it has the joint thing of slowing down your opponent while you're moving fast. Having recommended having the High Techno Arcana that I did, it allows you to also then, if your Thallax squad gets nuked, to go and hide in some Castellax and just really have lots of options as you're going on. So you've not been limited by not utilizing that Patris Cybernetica. You can always leave that Thallax squad if you think you've got some utility elsewhere, but it does allow you to keep that Thallax squad alive. And really, Thallax are excellent, excellent troops that I can't recommend highly enough. Now, if you don't want to utilize the Archmagos Prime with a jetpack, because obviously you've got less wounds, you can utilize on a Bayont. Now, the upside of that is you're getting a toughness 6 rather than toughness 5. I mean, you don't tend to be scared by high strength anyway, because las cannons aren't doubling you out regardless. But going to toughness 6, a bit nicer. Obviously, it's not that critical threshold of toughness 7 where Power Fists and Thunderhammers start wounding you on worse values. But it is quite nice that, say, Paragon Blades wound you on a 5 rather than a 4. As is not the biggest of differences, right? Because you've got a 3-up invuln. It also gives you those 2 more wounds that can be quite nice. So if you are just going to slog about with Castellax, go with an Bayont rather than the jetpack. I just like zipping about a lot more and keeping my Thallax alive. Right, so those are the bits of the list that I'd recommend that's outside of this box. So we've done the bit that's the not box bit. Now, for the actual box bit, let's go on to first the Castellax, because as I said, we've mentioned they come with line with that high techno arcana. Let's do a bit about the model, right? It's non-smashy. I'm going to get it in my hand whilst also displaying it on screen. It's non-smashy when you drop it. That's been a problem across the range for both Thallax, Castellax, all Mechanicum models, especially the arm joints, have just been horrible when they're in the resin. And because they've been thickened up, you can, obviously at the start, you've seen me drop it, and I can drop it as I'm holding it now. And honestly, it sounds stupid that I'm even thinking of it in that way, but it was such a thing that every time you'd unpack your army, if you weren't super, super careful with it, it would just be shattered into bits. Now, actually building the thing, it was quite nice. It can be a monopose model if you just assemble it straight out of the box with the instructions, but I found it quite easy to chop it up. Like, I'll display it now that I chopped up one of the hip joints to make it walking and just sliced the toe so that it was on an angle rather than flat. And it was very easy to just make it walking. A bit of a joint, a clip off of the square bit on the like the bottom of the rib cage bit, just allowed me to tilt the body a bit more. Now, one thing that I will say is with the power cables at the back, that does make this section pretty one-posed. And although it'd be easy to change it about, it's a bit of a sacrifice to get those cables. Now, you can get flexible cables from various suppliers, or even get a cable roller that's like a green stuff roller. I'd recommend, and you can very easily then get lots of poses out of the kit, I imagine. I've not done it, but you definitely can. Overall, a nice kit. Now, one thing that did catch my attention was on the back leg of the multi-melter model, I noticed that there's actually vertical lines, like almost like print lines, or however they they make the mold, whatever. I'm not skilled enough to know, but they like vertical lines, and you can't really see it once I've painted it up, so it's not really that rage inducing, but it is something that I noticed as I was like looking at the plastic kit, like it was visible. As I said, I'm sort of nitpicking there because as soon as I painted it up and I've got the undercoat layer of paint and a varnish on there, it's just entirely disappeared. So I don't know, we'll see if it explodes online, how much people care about it. But as I said, it's there, but it's disappeared as I painted it. Now, utilizing Castellax, I found Castellax to be obviously not as good as Edition 1, where they just had AP2 all the time. The weapon skill chart really hurts them in that they're weapon skill 3, so hitting normal Marines on 4s. But I've both utilised Castellax quite successfully, and Phil has definitely utilised Castellax quite successfully by being a squad of 4, where you get this massive tub of wounds. When you stack in the ability to react from your Magos, Archmagos, Magos Dominus that is, or Archmagos with Cyberthurgy, they become really scary because it's almost not worth firing at them for the amount of damage that your opponent's going to do. Even with a squad of las cannons, 10 shots tends to take off like a Castellax, and in return you'll blast back and wipe out a squad. Now, when I say blast back, I'm certainly not talking about blasting back with Mauler bolt cannons. Although they cause pinning, they are absolutely useless. Completely useless. Do you know what's better than pinning something? Destroying it. And so it's definitely worth upgrading to the multi-melter, to the Darkfire cannon that the options allow. Now, in the box, you only get one of each weapon. So your 2 Castellax, you'll actually have to do one of each, which is a bit of a shame. What I really hope when they sell these, you'll get a weapon sprue that will allow you for each Castellax, and it's only the battle group that you get one of each. But yeah, a bit of a shame there. Forgot to mention it in the building part, but at least you get one of each of them. Do you know what? I don't need to save them on that. That was a bit of a disappointment, but I will be fleshing out more plastic Castellax when I get them. But yeah, multi-melters, quite good for re-rolling. You've got BS4. Going to a BS5 is certainly helpful from Cyberthurgy, but having a re-rolling 3-up to hit, useful. Being able to double out Terminators, very useful. Darkfires, however, having 2 shots tends to be my favoured method, just because then 4-5 Castellax get 8-10 shots, and you can blast back at las cannon squads and just wreck them by taking those single wound Marines off the table and win that shooting war quite easily. I mean, 115 points for such a sturdy platform, I still do like. They're just not as good as a lot of people were used to in Heresy 1. Phil has been wrecking me with them for since this book came out. So I think it's actually quite a good start to an army to have these. Now, if you're a Marine player, buying the battle group, you'll get enough to do a solid Praevian little unit. It's a shame that the Praevian doesn't have Cyberthurgy to be able to make you able to react, but I have found utility in a Praevian. Now, third way to run them in a Mechanicum detachment, a single Castellax with Darkfire with Paragon of Metal. Now, what this does is allow you to have the precision, or it gives you the precision shots rule. Does some other stuff, but it's the precision shots rule that I'm most interested in for a lone Castellax. Give that Castellax a Darkfire, so you've got 2 chances to hit. It stays quite low threat because it's a single 2-shot model that's got 4 wounds, so it's might not kill it with firing a bunch of shots into it because it's got 4 wounds, and it's only 2 shots, so it sort of goes down that priorities list. But with precision shots, you can snipe out Artificer Sergeants, so I found it quite a nice, fairly cheap 150 points usage of a Castellax to just Paragon of Metal, Darkfire, snipe across the table. And it's also, the mech is an army that is quite limited for precision shots, and this is a way to get it. You've got lots of AP3 when you start expanding the list outside of this battle group. So having something with precision shots that is also cheap is quite nice. In the wider list, another use of Paragon of Metal is obviously the Thanatar, and you can only have it 1 unit in the list, in the entire army, can be upgraded with Paragon of Metal. So you've got that split choice. Castellax is worth it sometimes. Thanatar is worth it a lot of the time, and is a lot of people's preferred way to put Paragon of Metal. But I just thought it was worth mentioning the Castellax. Other than that, it's the same Castellax that looks nice and always has. It's just a plastic version. So, how much is there to say about that one? It's nice. I can drop it now. Now, next, we come on to the Thallax. Again, spindly before, undroppable, because it'd always snap at the leg. It's got the same sort of thing as the Castellax. It's the same as before. It's monopose out of the box. As with the Castellax, you can get sort of trapped into, read the full instructions of both of them, because I did this on building both the Castellax and Thallax. Didn't read the full instructions and sort of was, oh god damn it, I've assembled all the things in one way and there was an alternate option. Luckily, also not reading the instructions, I tend to just go off piece quite a lot, even just in minor ways. I'm not tooting my own horn there, but in minor ways just go off piece. So I've got a more dynamic Thallax, where he's sort of flying forward a bit more. Thallax, really good. You've got high movement 7, but that's increased with your jetpack to 12. In the shooting phase, you can move 6 inches after shooting, and also it increases the movement of your reactions, both advance and withdraw, by 6. So that goes to 8 because of your initiative 2. Or the reason I like putting a Magos in with them is that the Magos has initiative 4, so it's increased to a 10-inch move. If Magos is your warlord, or you can utilize the logic of victory, which increases your movement further. So you can actually get a 13-inch reaction move with Thallax, or you suppose your Magos, but a 13-inch reaction move, which is insane. That's why I quite like putting a Magos with a grav gun in the Thallax. You get this insane movement distance, and if you use your grav gun, 2 inches less to your opponent's move. So you're just massively outstripping them and buzzing around everywhere. That's pretty much untouchable because you've got this 2-up Magos. You've got 3 wounds per Thallax at a toughness 5, so you're not getting doubled out by las cannons. The thing that you're most worried about is the fact that you've got a save of 4 up on your Thallax normally. Now, that means you'll get chewed through by heavy bolters because they'll wound you on a 4, they'll ignore your armor. Yes, you've got 3 wounds, but they obviously heavy bolters 4 shots each. And you don't notice how many heavy bolters are in the game as a Marine player. They're everywhere. Like incidentally, just like on the hull on a Sicaran, that Land Raider that's not upgraded to a las cannon, it's got a heavy bolter. The sponsons of non-upgraded Predators, heavy bolters. A Marine players just go, oh, whatever, I've got my armor saved. 3 ups, saved them, don't care. And actually, they're just everywhere and they're deadly to Thallax. So, as a Mechanicum player, utilize your reaction for your Thallax. Stay out of those lines of sight of the enemy tanks. Use that react or the move after your own shooting to move out of lines of sight and just help you hide. And then having that Magos in there as well with their 2-up save allows you to tank those heavy bolter shots that would normally just wipe your Thallax off the board when you do get caught out. So that's why I like utilizing the Magos with my Thallax. Now, the lightning gun, 18-inch range. I always use the focus. I never use like the dispersed beam of my lightning gun. It's got more shots. Like, I don't tend to like chancing it. What I like utilizing is the 18-inch range, strength 7, rending 4-up shot. And actually, it does a lot of work against tanks. It does a lot of work because if you get the 4-up to get the extra D3, you can actually still get a Land Raider if you get a 4. That gives you 11, and then the extra D3 can still glance. And obviously, that just gets better as you get to a 5 or a 6 on the initial dice. More of a tank hunter, I would say, than an infantry hunter, though you still can do infantry in. You've just not got the weight of shots. And when you go on to dispersed, because Marines are getting armor saves, I feel like you might as well be firing bolters, which are just useless, or like not to be counted on. So yeah, I prefer the focused beam of the lightning gun. Now, up for upgrades, I do think Warhammer Community got it right when they did their Tactica. The multi-melter, by far my favourite one for Thallax, along with melter bombs. Melter bombs really useful for just, you're really fast with that jetpack, utilising the lightning gun because you've got a jetpack, and then charging in. You've got a really long charge range with them to be able to take out tanks. Especially if someone's got a tank squadron, you using the lightning guns, firing at the tank squadron, obviously moving forwards and charging the remaining tanks, really useful, especially then because you can zip out of harm's way. As soon as your opponent moves, you move back 10 inches, 13 if you've got logic of victory. And it's just an excellent squad. Now, chain bayonets nowadays, I'm always tossing up, do I want them, do I not? Strength 5 with the chain bayonet is quite good. It's the obviously giving armor saves. It's still a bit of a handbag fight utilizing the chain bayonets. It's almost comes down to whether you've got an Archmagos in the squad, right? Or if it's like against Marines. It's like 50-50. They've got a better armor save, you've got a better strength. Who knows then? And at that point of who knows, is it even worth it? Because then you might as well be strength 4 and still who knows. Archmagos, you'll probably batter a Marine squad. If you've got an Archmagos, do you know what? Archmagos is sometimes just absolutely batter Marine Praetors, but he's outside the scope of this box. Archmagos, I mean, very good in combat. You just need to hit, and you've got a low number of attacks. But yeah, Thallax squad's absolutely excellent, and the new models, the same excellent models as before, but now not as breakable. Again, he's like as a player that has already got Thallax, it's hard to get super psyched up for them. But when I inevitably get more of these plastic Thallax, it will just cut down on the amount of headaches because they won't break as often. Now, onto the Ad Secularis Covenant. They're actually really nice models, better than I was expecting. They've got more range of options. They sort of like monopose bodies. They've only got one weapons option. That's a bit of a shame, though obviously they've only got one weapons option in the book. Would have liked to see them with the heavy chain blade option that comes in the Legacies, though I know it's Legacies. Some of the books like Titanicus have them described as really feral. It would have been nice to see like options of different like absolutely mental heads in there. So that's the bit of complaint, the lack of options for the weapons and not mental enough. The good thing of them, they have like the twitchiness, jerkiness that you imagine in sort of like brain stim tech thralls, as if they're not choosing to do these actions, they're sort of like forced to do them by the electro implants. So I quite like that. You've got lots of options with the heads. The instructions tell you what head to put on there, but what I found myself actually doing was I made all the heads and threw them into a pile and randomly picked out heads. And they all sort of work. It just puts them at odd angles or even more odd angles. And still, they looked right and they all fit. And why the instructions don't just tell you to do that rather than like giving these prescribed angles of head jaunts, I don't know. The left arms all being interchangeable, good. Gives more variety to the set. There's like a suggested angle for each arm that's like where the V of the arm is that slots them onto the torso at a particular angle, but you could also just very easily ignore that. I mean, it's a 3-point, what is it? Like a 4-point model, 4.5 point model. They are actually quite nice. They've got a lot of detail though. This is such a backhanded compliment. They've got a lot of detail for a 3-4 point model. It's like sort of classic Games Workshop where they produce high quality models. I just tend to then end up cutting that down in the painting process so I can paint them. But they stand up. If you want to spend that time on these models, it's there. And also, if you don't, I'd recommend just like sort of painting with more muted colours so it doesn't read. Like I've been going with browns at the moment so that unpainted areas don't read as unpainted. They read visually as purposefully that colour. In terms of the actual unit, you've got a terrible stat line, and that is entirely purposeful. They are tech thralls, chaff. Movement 6, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2, strength toughness 3, 1 wound, initiative 2, 1 attack, leadership 6, and a save of 6+. You've got a Laslock, which is essentially an assault 2, strength 4, AP 6, range 18 weapon. So it's like a little bit better than a bolter, except against stuff with a 5-up save, because you don't need to be within 12 to get those 2 shots. You're heavy, you're line, so you can't run. You've got you even if you could react, which you can't do, you'd be reacting 0 inches because you're heavy, so it's -2 on reactions. Rite of Pure Thought means that you can't react or make any sweeping advances. That's a bit of a shame. I would have, even if you were only limited to shrouding yourself, because actually one thing is that this edition of the game, I do feel like chaff armies have a much harder time of it. A lot of things are very killy now, especially with heavy bolters and Volkite culverins going up a shot each. It means that things tend to die a lot faster. And with reactions, it tends to mean that things die a lot faster. I think these are one of the units that actually you'll spend the points on and then never fire, because you don't want that reaction fire, unless your opponent has already used their reactions. So maybe even in first turn, you just don't fire, so they know you won't fire. And then in following turns, when they utilize reactions, because it's one of the, I don't know, as soon as my opponent realizes that I'm going to fire with a line unit, especially when you've only got within this army quite a limited number, this is a really easy to kill unit. So when your opponent does start targeting your line units to deny your scoring, it's actually quite easy to remove this unit. So getting 20 in the box, maximum squad size of 30, I potentially go to that 30 as like when you can. It's 30 extra points. I think they're all right using them. I'd like to see them higher leadership. Like the Rite of Pure Thought used to give them Fearless. It would have been nice if that gives them Fearless, as they are this stubborn 6, but they'll still run away, which feels a bit weird for, like, especially when they're modeled as zombies. In the set, you also get a Triaros. Now, Triaros at 135 points, and this is going to be a bit of a weird recommendation. I recommend putting the Thralls in the Triaros, and that's to keep them alive. The Thallax don't need the additional movement. Potentially, you even put the Thallax in first turn, and then immediately get them out and put your Thralls in after the Thallax have got out and not been shot first turn, just in case they were getting shot. But yeah, the Thallax you want really zipping about the table. They are a bit more of a damage dealer with those multi-melters, the lightning guns, the ability to shoot and move away and then react to the 10. The Ad Secularis Tech Thralls don't have anything like that and will die like flies. So throwing them into the Triaros will keep them alive a bit more, especially if there's late game scoring, or even using it as a blocking unit to just block lines of sight. I found that really effective with Aurochs and things like that. The flip side to what I'm saying there is it's quite an expensive transport to be doing stuff like that with. But the Mechanicum have no other options with it. When you start growing your Mechanicum army, putting Myrmidons in the Triaros can be really good. It makes them a lot faster. It's got a really strong front arc value of an effective 15 because of the flare shield. It's 14 goes to 15 with -1 strength to incoming shooting. So that can be really effective. However, as a battle group to start with, it's the Trek Thralls that I'd be putting in there. It's just I'd be finding something else to utilize in that Triaros as fast as possible. Now, as an actual output tank, obviously it's not very good. You maul the bolt cannon, yes, it causes pinning. I know Warhammer community, but pinning's not great. Volkite, they're okay. It's, what is it, 4 shots at 13 range, strength 6, off the top of my head. Still, it's not loads of shots. Obviously, it's more than a Rhino, and you've got higher front armor. one of the problems with that flare shield is you're very long. So when you're splitting diagonally the tank, and I'm going to do this with a ruler, where is it? There. That's actually forms quite a narrow front arc to face towards las cannon squads. So you then expose your side, which are really big because of splitting how you split the tank. You expose your side to a lot of people. So a bit of a downside to how that rule actually works in real life with the Triaros. As I said, when you expand, it's worthwhile with Myrmidon Secateurs if you're utilising the battle group out of the box. There's no brilliant place for it, but it is what it is. It's nice to have as you expand your army. Now, as an actual model, it was really nice to put together. Not having a brick of resin is better to carry about, and it doesn't like smash up all your other models because it's plastic. The actual experience of putting it together, I didn't hate it like I did, say, the Spartan. Didn't particularly like the Spartan to put together, but oh, I've just dropped it. It's not broke because it's plastic. Yeah, it's quite a nice model. What is there to say? Do you know what? I'm saying it's quite a nice model because I've already seen it. If you've not, I really like the model. It's, again, just hard to get super excited about something converted into plastic from resin. It's a very, independently of that, it's a very nice, God, I'm trying not to come off as a super shill because I got sent this box. So I'm not trying to be actively negative as well. But it's just giving my like opinion at the time of it. Again, it's hard to get excited about something going into plastic, but having plastic into the future is amazing, and I'll be getting, when I buy them, I'll obviously be buying them in plastic, and that'll be much, much better. How am I doing at this? How am I doing? Tell me in the comments at splitting between it's an old thing in plastic because I'm really struggling with it. And that's why I've decided to do this sort of like rules review of how you'll use the battle group box at the same time as the models, because I just couldn't do model reviews of this because it's it's just saying them again. So yeah, Triaros definitely more useful for an expanded battle group. Struggling to find a place for it because the value of what its contents will be is super low as it stands. Now, I've actually gone about making an army list for this. You can't actually fit all of the models in an allied detachment because you have 3 troops choices included in the battle group. Now, how I would begin thinking about the box, if you're a Marine player already, is simply adding Thallax and Castellax to your existing list by using a Praevian and a Forge Lord. Now, a Praevian is a HQ choice that can take either a Castellax or Vorax squad, and it's all combined into one HQ choice, and they rock about together. And that's quite nice. It gives the Legion rule that you have on your Praevian to the Castellax. So say me, as Iron Warriors, I'm getting +1 to my tank penetration rolls with my Castellax, and that's really useful. It can be useful for, say, Night Lords outnumbering things. Obviously more useful with the Castellax to shooting-based legions. And I know I've just said Night Lords, but I think they're actually playing out in this edition as more of a shooting-based legion, and just outnumbering things. Now, Forge Lords will allow you to take independent, not joined on like the Praevian, but independent squads of Thallax as heavy supports. And because the line isn't tied to being troops anymore, that is really, really useful. They're probably the best line unit in the game, I would say. So their inclusion into a Marine list really boosts them up. Really, really like it. Now, the next way, once you've painted up the entire set, is to utilize them as an allied detachment. Now, what I'd recommend there is going Archmagos Prime, and this is my personal preference, with a Chain Fist, augury scanner, rad grenade, cyber familiar, jetpack, grav gun. That's with the high techno arcana cybernetica, so my Castellax gain line. And I'm going to be joining that to a 6-man Thallax squad with 2 multi-melters, melter bombs, 4 chain bayonets. And that just gives me the survivability in the Thallax squad. They've got line, great. Then 2 Castellax. In this set, you're going to get 1 multi-melter, 1 darkfire. Try and, I don't know, switch with a mate, so you get 2 multi-melters or 2 darkfires. But as it stands in the set, you get 1 of each, right? That'll form quite a solid allied detachment, I would say, because you've got Castellax, you've got Thallax, they're the good things, not the Secularis. When you're expanding that into a full army, it gives you quite a nice sort of 1,000 points detachment. Granted, you've got to buy an Archmagos from somewhere else, but there's actually lots of good Magos models that Games Workshop do that I will display on screen now. So there's actually quite a range of options, not just in the set. So I'm not too disappointed that the Magos doesn't come in the set, because it just gives you the freedom to choose. Obviously, getting more models is better, but I'm not going to spend too much time harping on about it. Thralls and Triaros, what I do expanding this 1,000 points army is start by getting some Myrmidons. They're absolutely excellent, verging on overpowered, shall we say, and sticking those in the Triaros because it will keep them safer. It will speed them up, because one of the downsides of them is they're only movement 6, so it will speed them up. Force your opponent to have to crack the Triaros before going after the Myrmidons, and just make them more survivable, right? Overall feelings about the set, quite like it. It's a good start to a Mechanicum army. There's some things that aren't the best, but there's always in these sets. I mean, the Solar got a Dracosan that is just terrible this edition. They're a good bunch of models to be getting for the battle group. And Thallax and Castellax are excellent. Tech Thralls, typical chaff, and they've got line. It's okay. And the Triaros is a nice model. And it's actually, I'm sure, done in a way that will be seen in the future upgrade sprues to make the Karaknos barrage mortar tank, like the Radphagey one. So overall, quite positive. Hopefully everyone enjoys this Mechanicum set. I've enjoyed painting it up in sort of a scheme which will go with my Iron Warriors, as if they were like the Greek amphoras. That's why it's orange. If you want to see a full Mechanicum breakdown, me and Phil, who plays a lot of Mechanicum, did one a while ago. I'll put that in the cards now. And if you want to see a painting video of the set, I have filmed painting them all. Let me know in the comments if you do want to see a painting video. So my thoughts on that will be done. If you guys fancy it, let me know below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. And with that, I'll catch you again. Cheers for listening.